So, what a difference it makes when somebody authentically brings themselves in. Yeah, really appreciated all that you shared. So my name's Ambaranta, and I want to explore the world of bubbles with you. Bubble blowing and bubble living. But before I do that, I want to let you know that what I'll be saying, what I'll be sharing, if it kind of feels like I don't want to listen, just maybe imagine it as a series of sound bubbles that just kind of pass over. Yeah, it's a personal talk, and it's largely personal, but where I'll share my love of bubbles and what they mean to me. It's a very serious business, and I've made some limited Dharma references, but there are plenty of references in the Dharma to bubbles and to foam. And I've brought a whole collection of them with me. So if anybody wants to photograph any of them, they can do that at the end. And there'll also be something else that you can photograph where you can get a link to some of the material that's here. So let's just breathe together for about 4 breaths. Just breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. We breathe in, and we've never done it before. And we breathe out, and we'll never do it again. Each breath unique. So you might think that breathing happens all the time, but each breath is different. When you breathe in, it's never happened before. And when you breathe out, it's never happened. It will never happen again. So, life loves life. Bubbles love life. Life loves bubbles. The air that we breathe brings oxygen to our blood. Without air and oxygenation, then we're not alive. Breathing, we are alive. And real bubbles burst. They naturally arise and eventually fade or burst of their own accord. Try as you might, you can't control a real bubble. When you try to control a bubble, you're trying to control the flow of life. And when you try to control the flow of life, you're squeezing the life out of life. So when you breathe, breathe easy. Let your breath flow. Bubbles are about life and the flow of life, where everything is dynamic. Everything is in relationship. Everything is not separate. It's not this is the practice and this isn't. All things are part of the flow of life. To take my glasses off to see now. Yeah. So yeah, breathing in, never before. Breathing out, never again. Let's love life the way that life loves us. So the theme liberation through imagination, I was reading that and just thinking about where it touched my heart. And in the blurb it says, freedom can be frightening. We can withdraw into wintry cynicism and numb our hearts. But then I thought, yeah, and just as the spring sun calls forth life from the frozen earth, with imagination, in experience, bubble blowing and bubble living awakens and liberates us from the icy grip of rigid habits. In the warmth of experiencing expanding creativity and joy, our indifference can melt and feelings of gratitude are released. They're released into the flow, flowing in all directions to meet living beings. Whatever this is, we're in it together. We're not separate but in flow. Realizing this arises the possibility of loving connection and shared purpose. The theme says, can we widen our minds enough? Do we have the courage to dream a new world into being? And I was thinking, why are you here? I was also thinking, why am I here? But somehow in your life, whatever your life involves, you've found a way to come here. Something has drawn you to this place. Every single aspect of your life, the good, the bad, the grunge, the punk, whatever it is, all of it, without exception, are the conditions that brought you to here. Everything, all of our lives have brought you, have brought me, have brought we together to this point. And in these times, in these very particular times, how amazing is that? Sangharakshita says, what we imagine today we may execute tomorrow, and the dream of the night may become the reality of the morning. So let me imagine, let me dream, and we may find that we are closer to waking, closer to reality than we had thought. And I was just thinking, because, once upon a time, a very long time ago, I came to Buddhafield for a few years. And it literally was just a field. And, there was one shop with wares outside it. Now that seems like that day was just then. But here we are. And I suppose what I'm kind of asking, it's an amazing thing that's happening. And in some ways we don't have to imagine it because it's happening right now. Sangharakshita also says that it's all very well to expect Buddhism to be relevant to where we are, here and now, but where is here and when is now? Is our conditioned existence all that we are? When it comes to transcending conditioned existence, the last thing we need is something useful. In fact, it takes something quite irrelevant to transcend conditions, and then the pointless becomes the most relevant thing of all. So that helps me because bubbles used to be at the periphery of my serious Dharma practice, but now they've permeated every aspect of my life. I find myself turning up on street corners at the end of the week, blowing huge bubbles. And it's amazing to see what happens when people see bubbles when they're not expecting them and they're just on their way home after what's been what looks like a hellish week. In fact, on one occasion outside Walthamstow Town Hall, I'd gone to do it because I was feeling pretty grim, and it always helps me to blow bubbles. It might not help you, it's not kind of enforced, it's not in the system of practice yet, but you know, it helps me. And I turned up and I was doing it, and then I saw out of the corner of my eye this group of young men walking down the street like, really, this is my stuff, it's not what they were, I own it, but they kind of look streetwise, they look cool, and they were texting. I don't think it was each other, but they were texting each other on the phone. And I thought they're getting closer. They've not seen the bubbles. But they got closer. And then this guy kind of... and he looked at me. That's fucking great, that is. So, you know, I felt happy. And so did he, momentarily. So I think bubbles can support us to living our lives fully, a fully lived life, as the imperfect yet potentially clear-seeing human beings that we are. Bubbles have got no agenda and they're genderless. Bubbles can't be taken as being out to get us or to have it in for us, and we can't be confused into believing we can ever catch hold of them. You can try, and there's little gloves which you might see tomorrow in in the bubble workshop where you can hold them for a while, but all bubbles burst if they're real bubbles. And when we begin to see through, or we invest in bubbles, just through that simple action of breathing in and breathing out to blow a bubble, to live our life, we can come to see through impermanence, that things are not fixed. All the elements are present, and we can loosen the grip of clinging and confusion and move more into the experience of non-attachment. The other thing that I've found on a practical level bubbles to be useful for is where they have, I don't know if it's, you might have your own equivalents of it in work or in situations that you're in where you kind of have a period of reporting out or checking in and seeing how you all are. Personally, I find them quite hard sometimes. But bubbles can be an aid to reporting in and to reporting out. And one of my very pleasurable memories is at the end of a retreat, people connecting with the joy of the retreat and then in a circle just blowing bubbles. Just blowing bubbles. Yeah, they can help to loosen what's stuck. So there's all kinds of bubbles, and some of them needs, you know, we need to burst through some bubbles. But bubbles, by their very nature, are about release. And anything short of release is not a bubble. Time is clearly a bubble, because I've only got 5 minutes left. But yeah, bubbles are revolutionary. And yeah, what do I... So bubble blowing can be seen as a way to experience life more fully, as a gateway, as a means, not an end. Clear bubble seeing welcomes all things. The stuff that's labelled good, bad or ugly, all of it can be welcomed into the bubble. So if you're feeling angry, blow a bubble. Put all that anger into a bubble. Maybe you'll see something beautiful happen. The bubble doesn't discriminate. The play of the bubble can sometimes break through where all else seems to fail, when this thing we call practice is such hard work. But no matter how many times you bang your head on familiar patterns, you can do that without injury if you're doing it with bubbles. They help us to loosen our control on things. If you can't get bubbles to follow a designated flight plan. You know, we try to do that with our lives, but it kind of doesn't work, does it? Or it seems to work. And even when you blow bubbles in one direction, they go with the flow in any direction. A bit like our lives. It's a doomed task if you're intent on a very specific outcome. You can be attentive, give it your best, and then just wonder at what unfolds. Beyond an initial receiving and bearing of your breath, bubbles refuse direction. They won't be coaxed, convinced, paid or bought, and yet they're receptive to every bit of you. They meet all that you offer, receiving all that you give. With an attentive and receptive heart-mind, blowing bubbles can help us look at and see and even see through our conditioning, potentially at every level. I do mean this literally. So I'm going to move. I've only got 3 minutes. Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of words. Inhaling, I take the world within me. Exhaling, I give myself to the world. When we blow a bubble, we're engaging with something we can't control, but yet is somehow shaped by our actions. When we see and see through our investment in outcomes, bubble blowing becomes easier. Something loosens, something begins to flow. All the elements are present, and not just because we're formed by them, but there's air in the blowing of them, consciousness in the mind that beholds, followed by the moment of bursting. Alongside the earth as witness, so too the sky. Imagine living life as a bubble, or a series of bubbles being blown, like the tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being. Moment by moment, breath by breath, Our lives are like bubbles. So we need to break the bubble of confusion and break through to the bubble of life, to the way things really are, to experience life as it is, moment by moment, breath by breath. Breathing in, never before. Breathing out, never again. Some discipline, light-hearted discipline with methods to explore and enter the world of bubbles can be very helpful. But in the end, which is the end of each breath, we just have to let go. And as Milarepa says, all these forms, appearance, emptiness, like a rainbow with a shining glow in the reaches of appearance, emptiness. Just let go and go where no mind goes. Every sound is sound and emptiness, like the sound of an echo's roll in the reaches of sound and emptiness. Just let go and go where no mind goes. Every feeling is bliss and emptiness, way beyond what words can show. In the reaches of bliss and emptiness, just let go and go where no mind goes. All awareness, awareness, emptiness, way beyond what thought could know, what thought can know. In the reaches of appearance, emptiness, let awareness go, oh, oh, go, where no mind goes. That's the end of the ball bit. Oh no, oh yes, it is.